Hi, I'm Pastor Chris Titus, and today we're going to talk about how we handle this self isolation that we are in. And what I'm suggesting is that we do self improvement while we are in self isolation. And we all have this thing we rarely experience extra time. And so now is the time to work on key areas of your life for improvement, and this is your opportunity. And so, what are the three key areas? Well, number one, physical, number two, emotional, and number three, spiritual. Those are the areas that now that we have this additional time because of social distancing and self isolation and less work and more free time, we need to take advantage of that. We need to do things to improve our lives in those three key areas. So, first of all, let's talk about physical. Each of us every year for New Year's Eve try to make some sort of resolution about how we're going to change our physical habits to improve our exercise routine or eating routine, whatever it may be. And then about the end of January, we run out of steam on that and we don't follow through on those New Year's resolutions. So what I'm suggesting is let's do some self-improvement and self-isolation in the area of our physical bodies, taking care of ourselves. That means that because we're going to restaurants less, and because we're going to the grocery store less, and because we're not going out to bars and doing all those other types of things that necessarily interrupt our good physical habits, we are now able to have the time to work on those things that are important. So that means the food that we eat, we're going to pay attention to that, watch out for the calories, all that kind of stuff, and try and most importantly, get some exercise. The one thing that happens when we are bored, when we aren't keeping track of our time and one day runs after another, and that's what happens in self-isolation, is we tend to eat. It's a comfort to us. And so we have to watch what we eat. We have to be disciplined in that. And then we have to make sure that we exercise. Now, whether your exercise is running or walking or whatever other thing you may do, swimming, biking, however you get your exercise, you need to increase that considerably. And I would suggest 3, 4, 5 times what you're used to doing in order to keep yourself in good physical shape. And then you may want to do push-ups and sit-ups and planks and Pilates and all that different kind of stuff. But if you're going to do self-improvement and self-isolation, your diet and exercise are critically important. So make a list of those things that you want to cross off your diet, stay away from those, and then make a list of the exercise routines that you want to develop each day so that you make sure that you stay in shape, whatever that exercise might be. The second area that I want to talk about is emotional. We have to do some self-improvement in our emotional state because we are in self-isolation. We are social creatures by nature, some of us more than others. And so being separated from people can be very discouraging. It can get us down. It can make us think of all kinds of negative things. And the next thing you know, we start evaluating aspects of our life and we have regrets and we have frustrations, maybe even some anger, unforgiveness, all those things. So sit down and make a list of those areas in your life that you want to get rid of, that you want to self-improve while you're in self-isolation. Make a list of those things and then be disciplined about it. Stay on top of what those areas are and try to figure out ways for you to improve and overcome some of those challenges. We can still be very social through social media, phone call, text, email, all that kind of stuff. And we can still interact with our family and friends, and that's very important to us emotionally. But it's our time alone that always seems to be the trouble spot. The things that are on our mind that bother us the most, sometimes when we have extra opportunity to reflect on those, it can be quite discouraging. So my suggestion to you is, again, get out a notepad, make a list of those things that you are going to work on emotionally during this time of self-isolation. And finally, the last one is spiritual improvement. How do I improve myself spiritually during this time of self-isolation? Well, first of all, you may not have a relationship with God right now. Guess what? You got lots of time to explore how you might begin one. And for those of you who don't have a relationship with God or have kind of wandered off and not made any decision about following God, then this is the perfect time for you to study and research and understand what it is that God is trying to communicate to you, and probably has been trying to communicate to you for some time. And I would suggest you read the Gospels. Pick up the Bible, dust off the cover, open it up, start reading the Gospel of Matthew or Luke or John or Mark, whatever you may want to do. Get in there, read those. And then I would also tell you, even if your relationship with God is just sort of a casual thing for you, look at the wisdom books that are found in the Old Testament. Take a look at the Proverbs and the Psalms. They can very much help you in self-isolation, make self-improvement through looking at the various wisdom books that have been written. And then, of course, my favorite and my greatest suggestion to you is read the book of Ecclesiastes. Here's a book written and attributed to be written by King Solomon, where he talks about all the things in life that we tend to chase in this modern world. The money, the fame, the fortune, the travel, the treasure, all that stuff. He had it all. And yet, in the end, when he finally reviewed his life, he found it all to be meaningless. And so it's a fascinating book to look at. King Solomon was the Bill Gates of his time. He could do anything, he could go anywhere. And so what an interesting book to read while you're in self-isolation, to help you do some self-improvement in the area of spiritual development. Now, if you're already a mature Christian and you are trying to develop deeper habits, and of course you're going to go to prayer, you're going to go to reading your Bible, and you're going to stay in contact with other Christians. These are the three pillars of the church that really support good, healthy self-improvement of your spiritual life. So in all of this, I make suggestions to you simply to try to encourage you to do some self-improvement during self-isolation. Make sense? Until the next time we meet, be blessed.